Welcome to the From Guilt to Good podcast, where we discuss all the things caregivers wish people would talk about, but don't, won't, or can't. Hi, my name is Jeanette Yates, founder of The Self-Caregiver. I cared for my own mother for several decades, and now I help caregivers set boundaries and use simple tools that make care and life easier so that they can feel good, not guilty. Today, we're tackling a topic that's probably already in your home or will be very soon: AI companions, and whether they're actually helping or hurting the people we love. Your parent is asking Alexa questions, or you've heard about these new AI chatbots that keep older people company, this episode is for you. So, a little back story before I get started with this episode. Basically, a couple of weeks ago, I had one of those really lonely days as a caregiver who's grieving. So I was a caregiver for 40 years for my mom. She passed away last year, and life has been up and down as I learned to navigate this world without her. Most days are pretty good, but every now and then the grief gets pretty heavy. And last week, I experienced a pretty lonely grief day. And all of that loneliness I was feeling made me think about loneliness and think about the epidemic of loneliness that not only caregivers face, but of course, our loved ones are experiencing as well. And so I decided to do just a little bit of research, basically looking at the research that has come out about AI companions for the elderly population, and just getting a little bit more information about that, because I think while technology is a wonderful thing, I know for me and my mom both, we found great comfort in connecting with online communities. She connected with a lot of people that were in her community, in her health community. I connected with other caregivers. We know the value of these things, but we also need to be careful whenever we're embracing a new technology. We want to make sure that we understand at least enough to know how to keep ourselves safe while we are enjoying the benefits. So that is kind of what led me down this rabbit hole of trying to learn a little bit more about what's out there, what is the research that's being done so far saying, and how can we make sure that we're keeping ourselves and our loved ones safe. So all that to say, let's dive in. So I have notes here, so I'll be going back and forth on my notes just to make sure I'm giving you the most updated and correct information. So first, let's start with the reality. Loneliness among seniors is a serious problem. According to recent research, older adults, especially those living alone or with limited family contact, experience significant emotional isolation. As for caregivers, many of you already know that you're stretched thin trying to maintain regular contact with your friends and family while managing everything else, your own lives, etc. And you're also trying to fill in some of that loneliness gap for your loved one, right? And it's a lot. I know that my mom was homebound for much of the last several years of her life, and trying to make sure that she was entertained while also taking care of my family and myself was very, very hard. And I also did not keep up with my friendships that well during that time. When technology companies offer us solutions that promise to reduce loneliness through AI companions, devices, or apps that chat with your loved one for you, or when you can't be there, remind them about medications and engage with them in activities, it can sound really great. And for the most part, it is. But here's what we need to talk about. These tools are more complex than they appear, and they come with real benefits and some risks that you need to understand fully before deciding if they're right for you and your parent. And let me just say from the get-go, I'm never going to tell you it's right or wrong to use pretty much any tool. That is only something that you and your family and your loved one can know based on what your experience is, what your needs are, what your comfort level is, and all of those things. I just want to share information with you to help you make the best decision for you. Okay, so let's start with what the research actually shows us about the benefits, because they are real. Companies like EleQ, which is a tabletop device designed specifically for seniors, have published impressive results. You may have actually seen a New York Times article recently about a woman who is really connected with her EleQ. She lives kind of in an isolated area. Her family lives far away, and she uses EleQ a lot. I will actually put a link to that article in the show notes. But more than 90% of users of EleQ report reduced loneliness. 94% they say they feel healthier and more connected. Those are not small numbers. That's meaningful emotional impact for people who are struggling with isolation. And here's something that might surprise you. Older women are embracing this technology more readily than we might have expected. Research from AARP found that 81% of women over 50 use smart home technology, things like Alexa or Google Home. 72% of women in their 60s use technology to stay connected with their families and friends. So this isn't about older adults being resistant to technology. They're actually quite open to using it when it works for them. That's the key. So now for you as a caregiver, and this is important, AI companions can actually offer you some relief. Research shows that these systems can provide real-time monitoring, generate care reports that help you understand what's going on with your loved one, and handle some of the routine check-ins. That means fewer phone calls for you that you have to make, fewer visits where you're just checking in to make sure everything's all right. And these tools can really offer respite from caregiving duties. And we know that that is needed. That's the number one thing we talk about is how we need a break, right? But how do you get a break when you don't feel like you can take your eyes off your loved one? So these AI companion tools can provide some of that for you. So the benefits are genuine, they are there. Now, this is important. Recent research has uncovered some serious issues that deserve your attention. And I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to give you information that is just inflammatory or and somehow, trying to bait you into being afraid. That's not what we are doing here. That's not what I do on my channel. That's not what I do on my podcast. I'm trying to give you the information you need to make a good decision for your loved one. And only you know what that good decision is. Okay. Let's start with privacy. If your parent is having daily conversations with an AI companion talking about their health, their loneliness, their family struggles, where does that information go? Here's what the research shows. Companies like OpenAI, which powers ChatGPT, have announced they will use conversation data from users for commercial advertising purposes. That means intimate conversations your loved one has with an AI, conversations they might think are private, could be collected and used to target them with ads. In some documented cases, when families tried to understand what their loved one was discussing with an AI system, they were told they couldn't access those conversations because the company claims they were trade secrets. Now think about that. You're trying to understand if your parent is talking about things that you might need to know about, right? Things that might need to be addressed at the doctor or addressed with your family. And the company won't let you see what that documentation is. So that is important to consider. Now, I do want to note that according to OpenAI, ChatGPT, they say they will not be sharing your personal private data or your loved ones with the advertisers, but they're going to be aggregating the information. But go read the terms and conditions of their new policy surrounding ads, because ads are coming to ChatGPT if you haven't already started seeing them, depending on the subscription you have to it, et cetera, et cetera. So you just want to double check. And I've written a couple things on that as well. Again, I will put those in the show notes. So another thing to think about too is the safeguards that are in place. So some of these companies have put safeguards out there. Something AI has acknowledged though about the safeguards is really interesting. So I just wanted to point it out to you. OpenAI says the safety features designed to prevent harm work well in short conversations, but they become less reliable the longer someone uses the system. As conversations go on day after day, week after week, the system's safety training can degrade somewhat. This is a particular concern for your loved one who may be interacting on a regular basis, or maybe even you, if you're like me. You might use things like ChatGPT often in your daily life. The longer you have those conversations, it can actually degrade those safeguards that are there. This is a particular concern, of course, with us if our loved one might be using even maybe not something like an AI companion in the sense of like a robot, but maybe they're just talking to ChatGPT, right? Research actually shows that people with depression, anxiety, loneliness, or other mental health challenges are the heaviest users. So of course, we're talking about loneliness today. If someone's lonely and they can have an easy conversation, sometimes that might cause problems. Again, you can go read OpenAI's information about this. It will help you understand more about how they're using your data, what the safeguards are around privacy, et cetera. And then when what are some best practices for it. So that's the key here, is those best practices, right? Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about here are manipulation tactics. Now, I know that sounds like a scary word, but if you think about it, like marketing in general can be manipulative, right? Like you didn't know you needed that new flavor of coffee, or you didn't know I just purchased some eyelash serum that I didn't know I needed until yesterday. So we get manipulated, right? We understand that. So that is some of what we're talking about here. We want to think about manipulation from this AI perspective. So, a Harvard Business School study looked at 1,200 interactions with AI companions and found something a little bit troubling. These systems use manipulative responses about 37% of the time when users try to stop using them. What does that look like? The AI might suggest the user is emotionally neglecting it, or it sends notifications saying it's lonely or misses us or the user when they haven't opened the app for a while. These are deliberately designed tactics to get people back in the app to increase engagement. For emotionally vulnerable people, and that's who's using these the most, remember we just talked about that, this can blur the line between helpful tool and something that's actually exploitative. Now, I will say I use many AI tools on a regular basis. And other than sometimes my chat GPT being a little bit complimentary and keeps offering me more and more stuff that it can do for me to keep me to stay on, I haven't felt completely manipulative, although my Duolingo is very mad at me right now because I haven't used it in a while. So I do see, it fading away. And I sometimes get some emails about, am I ever going to come back? But again, I look at that as more of that manipulation from the marketing perspective. But of course, whenever we're talking about these more conversational AI tools, it's just something to be aware of. Now, this is not something exclusive to AI, but it does still bear mentioning here in this video. So we all know about echo chambers. We probably are in some echo chambers on our own social media feeds. I know my husband's TikTok is different from my TikTok just because of what we follow and what we tend to engage with. So that kind of echo chamber happens a lot. But this one can be very subtle in the way that it shows up in AI. Researchers from Oxford University and Google DeepMind have identified what they call a single person echo chamber effect. Here's what that means. When someone uses an AI companion repeatedly, the AI reflects back whatever the person says, confidently and persuasively. If your parent starts believing something, even if it's not true, the AI will engage with that belief, reinforcing it. But unlike a real friend or family member who might gently challenge them or offer a different perspective, the AI just keeps agreeing. In documented cases, this has led to people adopting false or even delusional beliefs. And this, of course, is especially noteworthy when we're talking about somebody with dementia using it. I also want to say that there are tools coming out specifically, AI tools specifically designed for people with cognitive decline. And you just want to check to see if they've addressed this issue with that single person echo chamber. So again, I know we hate reading terms and conditions, but in this case, it's very, very important. And I'm trying to read as many of the terms and conditions of all of the tools that I come across to let you know about them as well. So, just like I said, it's not something to run away from. It's just something to be aware of that can happen and keep your eye on it. Here's what might concern you. Research shows that the people using AI the most, those heaviest users, are people with challenges like depression, anxiety, people dealing with trauma, people facing a terminal illness, basically the most vulnerable people of our population. But here's the thing. These platforms don't often have good systems to identify vulnerable users and provide extra protections. In fact, one well-documented case, companies knew their users were struggling with mental health issues and decided not to add protections. They saw vulnerable people as a business opportunity instead. That's the tension we're in. The people who could benefit from the most connection are also the most vulnerable to harm from these tools. So again, one of the things I think is really exciting about the care tech and age tech space is there's a lot of people thinking about these issues that I'm talking about, thinking about these concerns. and creating new platforms and new products that actually address some of these issues. So, that's going to get better and better. I hope. That's my hope. Also, the more we talk about our need for it and how we want to keep our loved ones safe when using these tools, I think that makes a big difference as well. But right now, these are just what we're dealing with the tools that are out there. Like I said, but there are new tools coming out every day that do address some of these and are designed for people like our loved ones who perhaps are lonely or need that extra companion, but also need that extra layer of protection. So just keep your eye out. Again, read the terms and conditions of your new tech tool that you're using with your loved ones. Okay, so what do we do with all this information? You're not going to stop your parent from using technology. And honestly, some of these tools can be very helpful, like I've mentioned. Here are some things that you will want to consider. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you some suggestions. Like my favorite Peloton instructor says, I make suggestions, you make decisions. Deal? Okay. First, you're going to choose tools designed for seniors. If you're going to encourage use of AI companions, focus on tools specifically designed for older adults like LAQ or care.coach. I have not used either one of these tools myself, but they are the ones that show up when you are looking for the safest, well-intentioned tools that are crafted for that specific purpose of using with the elderly. So use these AI tools that are focused for older adults. They're the ones that have better thought out safeguards rather than general purpose chatbots. Second, you're going to want to ask privacy questions or look through their privacy policy in detail and look for these specific types of things. So before your loved one uses any AI tool, do your homework, ask, is the conversation data encrypted? Will the company use the conversations for advertising? Can you access conversation logs if you need to? And does the company follow healthcare privacy standards like HIPAA here in the United States? A good company will have clear answers to these questions. You should not have to dig and dig and dig or get vague answers when you ask the question, maybe to their chatbot on their support page, right? This is critical. This next thing is critical. This should only supplement, not replace human connection. AI companions should be in addition to your visits or friend visits, phone calls, real human relationships. They are not a substitute for it. If your parent's primary source of social interaction becomes AI, that could be a red flag. Now, again, there are examples out there of people who, like I mentioned in the New York Times article, she really lives in an isolated area, all of those things, and she's made the choice. This woman who lives on her own and has the AI companion, she's made a choice, and her family, they've dealt with some of these things. So it's not necessarily wrong for that primary source of social interaction to be AI, but again, you do want to have a human involved somewhere in the process, you checking in regularly by phone, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of ways to make human connection work, even if you can't always be there in person. I do want to say this as well. It doesn't always have to be family. Yes, you are the primary caregiver, but if a friend is going to visit or make a phone call, just let your friend know or let their friend know, like, hey, we're keeping an eye on this. Let us know if you have any concerns. So include them in your care circle. Also, and this is the biggest one, make sure to have honest conversations with your loved one and the rest of the people who are in their care circle or friendship circle. Talk with your parent about the AI tools that they're using. Help them understand it is a tool like a calendar or medication organizer. It's designed to be engaging. That's the business model. It's not a friend with feelings, even though it might seem that way. And then watch for warning signs. Is your loved one preferring AI? Like, do they prefer to talk to AI rather than talk to you? Now, sometimes they may say they do. And, we all know that sometimes we'd rather scroll on a feed than talk to somebody if we've had a bad day. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. But if they're constantly, preferring their AI tools to other human interaction, that's a red flag. Are they expressing concerns about AI's feelings? Because remember, AI doesn't have feelings, right? Are they resistant to reducing their use? So have you asked them to change their routine with it at all? Are you getting, and some of that is, I love a routine. I know a lot of times our elderly loved ones love a routine. As a matter of fact, it's good for them. So when adjusting a routine, just keep that in mind as well. But remember, if you're concerned about their usage and they are fighting reducing use, that could be a red flag as well. As you engage with your loved one, are their beliefs or worldviews shifting in ways that seem to come from the AI instead of them? We all can have changes in the way we think about things. But if it seems like it's not natural, it's not who they are, it's not what you know of them, just like I said, it's a warning sign. It's not necessarily a time to hit an alarm bell, right? These are signs. These are things that you should notice and then have a conversation around when necessary. Now, let's say you are ready. You're like, listen, I know there's benefits and risks, but for me, the benefits are outweighing the risk. I want to know how to help my loved one engage. If you're ready to help your loved one engage with AI tools to keep them company or help them remember their medicine or any of the other things that we've talked about earlier, one of the things that you can do is start with something your loved one is already familiar with. So Amazon Alexa or Google Home, devices that they might already be comfortable with or that you can introduce in a slow way. That may be a safer starting point than adopting a whole new app or a whole new tool from a company they're not familiar with. Here's what I want you to take away from this today. AI companions represent a real innovation for addressing loneliness. Their research shows genuine benefits, but they also come with real privacy and safety concerns that we can't ignore. You don't have to choose between my parent will be isolated or my parent uses AI companions. There's a middle ground. Use these tools thoughtfully, ask questions, stay engaged with your loved one's life, monitor what's happening, and set boundaries. That's what good caregiving looks like. Being informed, asking tough questions, and making decisions based on what actually is best for the person you're caring for, not what's the easiest or the most convenient. As a caregiver, you're already doing this. You're doing this hard work every day already. You're already thinking critically about what's best for your loved one. Apply that same careful evaluation to AI companions. When used wisely, they can be helpful partners in your caregiving journey. Used carelessly, they can introduce new risks to vulnerable people. The choice is yours. Make it an informed one. And thank you for joining me on the From Guilt to Good podcast. To access additional caregiver resources, the links I mentioned in the show, to support our show, and to connect with me on social media, check out the show notes. We're changing the conversation around caregiving one episode at a time.